Today we got two of the best zombie survivalists in the game going head to head. Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead is going up against Joel from The Last of Us. So who's coming out on top here? Let's find out. Rick Grimes is the protagonist and main character in the Walking Dead comic book series and TV show. He's a former police deputy from Kentucky who was shot in line of duty and fell into a coma, only to awaken and find himself in the midst of the apocalypse. He gradually becomes the leader of the group, so often faces many leadership struggles, overcoming them and changing his mindset or prioritize safety in numbers. His leadership qualities and experience eventually ended up with him becoming the leader of a sizable community near Washington, D.C., continuing to deal with many human threats along the way that cost the lives of his friends and loved ones. Rick is capable of easily chopping off walkers' heads, even when caught in a swarm, and despite only having one hand, he was still able to fight one-on-one against Negan. Rick's been shot, stabbed, taken large falls, or just been beat up on, even had his hand chopped off, yet didn't go down and survived all of it. Totally variant of the series. Rick's also an excellent shot, routinely and casually ending multiple headshots on walkers, and is extremely proficient in combining guns and shooting with melee combat, most notably with his hatchet, his signature weapon of choice. So, as we got one corner, the quintessential hero of the zombie wasteland, Rick Grimes. But entering the ring in the other corner was another iconic zombie survivor, Joel. Joel's one of the main characters in The Last of Us, surviving a post-apocalyptic America that's been ravaged by the cordyceps brain infection, which decimated roughly 60% of mankind. After losing his only daughter Sarah in the early stages of the outbreak, Joel became a ruthless and cynical smuggler, eventually tasked with smuggling and protecting Ellie, a young girl who's the key to mankind's survival. Joel eventually came to form a strong bond with her, seeing her as a surrogate daughter. As a hardened survivalist, Joel displays terrifying intensity, strength, cunning, and fierce fist-fighting prowess. He can out-brawl and overwhelm opponents half his age quite quickly, crush skulls, and even beat people to death with his bare hands. He can also hold his own against competent fighters. Despite Henry surprising him, Joel successfully overpowered and badly beat him, and later easily parried his gun from him while simultaneously shoving him into the ground. He could pin Robert and break his arm, shoved his brother Tommy against a locker, tackled a soldier, and overpowered Ethan, a trained Firefly, despite the man holding him at gunpoint. He could even overpower two cannibals, despite not having fully recovered from his life-threatening wound and undeterred after a car crash. Joel was also able to overpower a hunter and impale him on a shard of broken glass. Joel is also an expert wielding a wide range of weapons, from handguns to rifles and bows, all of which he can use with great proficiency. Also been shown to be an expert tactician, able to use both stealth, just charging opponents, in order to overcome overwhelming odds. He's also adept at crafting improvised weapons and tools, possibly due to his background in construction. With an acute sense of hearing, also to pinpoint the relative location those around him when focusing. So who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, The Last of Us 2 coming out tomorrow. Today we're throwing our two favorite apocalypse survivors up against one another. Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead, going against Joel from The Last of Us. So who's coming out on top here? Let's find out. Also, let's just set the scene here for a second. They'll be fighting in the middle of a ruined city. Start a little ways apart so that they can't just instantly shoot one another in the head. There will even be both walkers and runners throughout the city, complete with even the occasional clicker. Then to really seal the deal here, Rick will think that Joel had Carl and was threatening him, while Joel will think the same thing, that Rick had Ellie and was threatening her. Finally, there's a composite version of Rick Grimes, so with the comics and TV versions all rolled up into one. Alright, now let's get started. And first things first, talk about strength and physicality. Just real quick. Speed isn't necessarily that important. It's not like either of them are faster to dodge guns or anything like that. They're both roughly just as durable, with all the crazy things that both of them have survived throughout the years. I really want to talk about strength, though, because that's where the difference starts to show. Now, Rick is pretty strong, especially when dealing with walkers, but The Walking Dead, both the show and the comic, have gone out of their way to show that Rick can get his butt handed to him in fights. Whether it's Shane or Negan or the governor, Rick's smaller frame and the comic his missing hand have really come back to bite him and cause him to lose fights. On the other hand, Joel is an absolute monster. He can crush skulls, send people flying backwards with a punch, beat them to death with his bare hands, and he's consistently brawled with younger men and taken them down in record time. He's got the old man strength. In any sort of hand-to-hand fight between the two, Joel would just lay it on and absolutely overwhelm Rick, no question about it. Rick would get his licks in, and a Rick fighting for Carl is a very scary thing indeed, but Joel's strength advantage here is just too definitive. Based upon what he's done against both humans and infected, he can take Rick out with just a few punches. That's just one very small aspect of this fight. Remember, they're starting at a distance, so Joel's got to close the gap between the two just to get to hand. So what else factors into this fight? Well, guns. Of course, guns. And Rick is better here, and definitely the more accurate shot of the two. He's routinely landed headshots on walkers all over the place, most of the times either on the run by barely even looking. He's also a police deputy, has more training of guns, he's just a better shot. When it comes to Joel, while he definitely knows his way around firearms, he's been living in the apocalypse for 20 years. Mechanically, in game, it's never really clear that he's just an incredible shot. A lot of his shooting is because of the player, not Joel in universe. That makes sense? Now, don't necessarily undersell Joel here, he's still a good shot. Rick is just better. Only thing is, Rick still has to find Joel in order to shoot him. And that's where Joel's stealth can come into play. He's able to navigate his way through entire cities that have been taken over by infected and other hostiles, all protecting Ellie, even back when she was pretty much completely useless. He's able to sneak past military patrols and through checkpoints, sneak around with runners and clickers in the area, and sneak up on raiders and the humans on a consistent basis. I see no reason why Joel can't sneak up on Rick here too. And there's even just surviving in the battlefield long enough to kill the other. Because we gotta remember, walkers, runners, and clickers are gonna be roaming all around here too. And while Joel going up against walkers will probably be the easiest infected that he's ever killed, Rick going up against runners and clickers is a very different story. The infected in The Last of Us are a whole different beast than the walkers over in The Walking Dead. And runners, stalkers, clickers, and bloaters are a whole lot faster, stronger, more aggressive, and more dangerous than walkers. In fact, Joel and Ellie would almost be in paradise if all they had to deal with was walkers. Rick might very well be taken out by a clicker in this fight before he ever even encounters Joel. They're just two different beasts. And once again, Joel and The Last of Us are superior. And through all this, we haven't even mentioned Joel's most impressive feats. I mean, just for starters, Joel has lived in this world for 20 years, a whole lot longer than Rick, and has faced much, much bigger infected threats, even giant zombies that can throw bombs at you. That experience has turned Joel into something else altogether, and he's definitely got more skill and just got more literal experience. He's fought in unfamiliar territory all the way across America, from Boston to Colorado to Pennsylvania to Utah and more. He's fought inside buildings that basically crumbled over, and fought inside flooded subway stations. He's taken out an armed group of cannibals, mid of a blizzard where he could only see more than 3 or 4 feet in front of him. while he was weakened. He's taken down hundreds of men and beat heavily armed, highly trained, well supplied military death squads, even taking down tanks. Then at the end of the game, he's able to shoot his way through a hospital crawling with fireflies that were on the prowl and looking for him, all single handedly. It'd be like if Rick took out the savior complex by himself. Joel is just better here, across the board. The only hope that Rick really has is that he goes into a Rick rage, because he believes that Joel has Carl. And Rick has gone off before, and acted just like a force of nature. That's only been a handful of times. Joel fights at that level throughout almost the entire game. And Joel also believes that Rick has Ellie. Two thugs once attacked and injured and banged up Joel, to the point where he should have been dead if it wasn't for Ellie. And these thugs tried to kill him. Well, Joel sort of flip it on them, beat them up, knock them out, then drag them back to a safe house and torture them to find out where Ellie was. And he was on the verge of death at that point. To top it all off, Joel chose to doom the entire world rather than let Ellie die. If Joel believes that Rick has Ellie, absolutely nothing is going to stop him. Nothing. Joel is just better here, literally across the board. I don't even think killing Rick will top the list of most interesting things that he did that day. Joel is definitely coming out on top in this one. Joel wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts. Sign off in the comments down below. Also, be sure the like button, subscribe button, turn notification on the Fanco Army, and I will see you next time.